Messiah would quickly become a well-known publisher for the PC Engine, and from the launch of the system would work with developer Winz. Their first title was Skyflame, a turn-based sci-fi strategy game which came out the release year of the PC Engine, 1987. 2 years later, their next collaborative effort would come to fruition, Kaiso Chojin Shubibinman, or Cyber Citizen Shockman as it's often called in English. Starting up the game, we choose 1 or 2 players, and you can choose either of the 2 protagonists, Tasuke or Kepko. They both play the exact same. They also have a few voice lines, which is super cool for a Hue card game, especially one from 1989. We then see Doc, who is happy to see us finally awake. He explains that an evil robot called Dark Skull and his army is taking over the city. The Doc had been keeping him at bay, but can't control him any longer. So he basically took you against your will and turned you into a cyborg warrior to protect the city. He also comedically just remarks like, "Don't worry, I'll turn you back into human once this is over, so stop complaining and go fight." Like he's almost annoyed that you have any issues with it. I think it's awesome. You have 18 days to defeat Dark Skull before it takes over the city. Each time you die or complete a stage, time will progress by half a day. You can choose the path you want to take to reach him, and when clearing a stage you will often meet people who will give you upgrades, deals, or make it cheaper to heal when you're outside of a stage, though you have to heal at the hospital to do that. This makes way for a very flexible game experience. You can choose how much of the city you want to save before you take on the main bad guy. The gameplay is fairly simple, a 2D platformer where you slash your sword, jump around, collect power-ups like the charge up projectile move, healing items, and even a star that grants temporary invincibility like in Mario. Different locations also have different items to buy. Reaching a certain amount of points will net you an extra chunk of health, and dying will lose a chunk, so be careful. Also, you can get these drinks that'll refill your health if you're in a pinch. It's very simple and straightforward. In 1 player, that is. Sadly, the 2-player mode is kind of a mess. I would have loved it if you were not able to hit each other. You don't take damage, but you interrupt the movement and attacks. It's just really annoying. You can also stand on top of each other, which sounds neat, but it's not really useful. The fact that you have collision just gets in the way. Also, you share a life bar, which goes for all PC Engine Shubibinman games. And I just think it's always a net negative. It just makes for a less friendly co-op experience. That being said, playing the game on your own is a decently fun time. Your character feels kinda heavy, there is some momentum to it, which I find to be somewhat satisfying, but it takes some getting used to, and I could see why someone wouldn't like it. The jump isn't the greatest, it's not too bad, a little heavier than I'd like, kind of a short arc. There's a good amount of enemies to take on. Different colors will indicate how tough they are, and they have a lot of different behaviors. The missiles are kind of a pain. You can't duck under them immediately, you gotta wait for them to come a bit closer and then duck, otherwise they'll lower to your level. But once you get the hang of them, it's no biggie. Until they come from off screen. These can catch you off guard a lot. Thankfully, the upgraded sword or shots can destroy them easily. Another annoying obstacle is some sections where the floor will move you, but there's no like conveyor belt or anything to indicate it, so you just randomly get shot forward. It's very clunky, and the boss fights hit and hurt boxes are massive. I know I complained about the game a lot just now, and it really is a mixed bag of a game, but I still find it really charming. I like figuring out how to beat the bosses, the best methods and all that. I like unlocking all the equipment and powering up. The music is so charming. There's only a handful of tracks, but they're fucking bangers. And the dialogue is simple but cute. It's a decent little game with some cool ideas. And the fact that it's so open in how you approach it makes it a lot more fun to come back to. I would love to see more games having this open map style and equipment and characters along the way. After you get to the final area, which is tough to get through, the final boss will actually change its behavior depending on how many areas you've completed. If you go for all of the gear in the game, he'll be pretty frantic, but easy to take down, especially if you got some heals. Then you get some neat art and text explaining that the city is now saved, and that's the end of the first game. 2 years later, in 1991, we got Shubibinman 2. It was the only one to be released outside of Japan at the time, and it was simply called Shockman. Tasuke and Kepko are actually renamed to Arnold and Sonia in the English release. And I also like seeing this fan art in the manual. I just had to shout it out, it's really cute. And unlike the first game, the manual's in color this time around, and it looks so neat. Even having a little comic at the characters celebrating the game's release. You also get profiles for the new characters, Jita and Mew. Though Jita is sometimes written as Theta, it seems their names are references to the Greek letters, but I'm going to call them Jita as it says in the manual. Once again, you can play as Tasuke or Kepko in single or 2-player. This time it's a lot closer to how Mega Man plays, with its entirely projectile-based attacks. The sprites are also smaller now, but very expressive still. You start out in your normal clothes, and you can do funny poses by pressing up and down on the D-pad. I like that. The movement feels good, it's tight and responsive, and I had no issues moving around. As you go forwards, the doctor tells you to come to his lab as he's finally going to turn you back into a human. But the characters don't believe him, saying, "How many times have I heard that one before?" Then we get tripped by these asshole robots who recognize us as Shubibinman. They're both called Shubibinman, by the way. And we transform and fight them. After that, a news broadcast explains that there's an alien invasion and we have to go stop them. There is still a 2-player mode, and while it is more doable this time as you don't hit each other or get in the way, it still feels like a worse way to play the game. I wish 2 players was more fun, but for a game this hard, it's just too difficult. You still share a life after all. And I mean it, this game is hard. I'm sure I could have eventually beaten it on real hardware had I tried hard enough, but after like 2 hours of trying, I couldn't do it anymore. I just started using save states on emulator. And some levels force you to go through the cutscenes before you can play, which gets annoying fast when you have to redo them a lot. The first level is pretty fun, going up the buildings, scaling the city, and being attacked by a giant fucked up looking alien ship. But after that, we return to Doc's lab and he's been kidnapped. He calls us for help, so we have to go. And a really bad shoot 'em up section ensues. There's 3 of these in the game and they do not give you any health as you go. The only life you have is what you start with, and that's it. The environments will move around, sometimes blocking you off, so if you don't expect it, you'll often take damage. And there's a lot of enemies and really tight movements that you need to do to avoid damage. And these stupid bubbles that you can't destroy unless you shoot the ones with the red dot. And there's a boss at the end that's kind of funny looking, but he's a pain to fight. Then there's this long auto-scrolling mission in the sewers, which just takes forever. And it has a pretty hard boss fight at the end, so if you die, you have to go all the way back and redo it all over. This is why this became a save state game for me. Some of them get so hard, like long elevator sequences all over the place, and having to redo those just is not fun. Anyways, eventually we find that the doctor was kidnapped by Ryo and his army of alien invaders. They've created 2 anti-Shubibinman called Shubibinman Shade, Jita and Mew. They were made solely to kill our heroes, but Mew can tell that something is wrong. She's able to break out of their control and tries to get Jita to listen to her, but he refuses and insists on fighting us and fulfilling his purpose. After having a brawl with him, he gets away, and we run into Mew where she pleads with us to not kill Jita, that he's really a good guy deep down. Ryo discovers her betrayal and strikes her down. Shubibinman takes her to Doc to get healed while we go onwards. We gotta go to space to stop Ryo's sudden death plan, as he's gonna use a satellite to wipe out all life on Earth and claim the planet for himself. This is where the 3rd and last shoot 'em up section is, and it's really long and difficult. Especially with this ending part, having these ships chase you. They're so awkward to defeat, and just this whole thing goes on for so long. And every time you have to redo it, it's just, I just don't like it. So again, save states. The final level is a gauntlet that goes on for a while. After getting through weird floating heads boss and doing some platforming, we find Jita, who's adamant he'll beat us this time. We try to talk to him, but it's no use. This boss fight is really annoying, as his wide beam seems impossible to deal with. There is a way to dodge it, but it's pretty tricky. This is a good place to use the stars if you got any. These little items you sometimes pick up are rare, but basically stars will fall down, damaging the enemy and giving you health back. Alternatively, you can also use these consumables to get giant lasers to come up. Anyway, after beating Jita, you explain to him that Ryo struck down Mew. He has to see them for himself to find out if you're telling the truth, so he comes with you. There's a pretty short and easy elevator section that you dodge stuff with Jita, and eventually you get to Ryo. Jita asks if what we told him is true, and Ryo confirms it before striking him down. Now it's up to us to avenge them. The final boss is a bit janky, but pretty cool. First we take out the 2 guns on the top, then we shoot the orb on the bottom, and then the orb up top. It's kind of weird getting around his legs. It feels janky. The collision boxes feel really off, but it's still a decent fight. And after that, Shubibinman exclaims that his final attack is for Mew's sorrow and Jita's anger, and blast him away. We come back to Earth in a fucking rock and find that Mew was indeed saved by the doctor. And after some tinkering, Jita also survives, and we get a cute ending with little animations going around. Even this shot of Mew kissing Jita on the cheek, and he's like blushing, and the Shubibinman just chuckle cutely at them, but Jita just gets embarrassed and blasts him away. It's so silly. Man, this game could have been really good, but it wound up being extremely difficult and annoying. I'm glad to say the music is still fantastic, and there's more of it this time around. And this probably has my favorite story in the franchise. I wish I enjoyed actually playing it. Kaizo Chojin Shubibinman 3 Ikai no Princess, or Princess from Another World, released just 1 year later and was the only CD-ROM based entry in the series. And with it, we get animated cutscenes. Ariga Hitoshi shared a lot of information on their Note account, creating a thread where he discussed working on these cutscenes and gave us some insight into how it was all rendered. He would also later work on the game Dragon Egg, which I covered before. He was responsible for some of the design work, including this demon ship, and we got to see some early sketches and ideas for the cover art. I've linked his thread down below, but it is all in Japanese. This time the manual also has the main characters narrating the instructions with color-coded text, and yet again there's some really wonderful art, especially of the Princess Kureha and her funny henchmen. They come from a different place in space and time. Their kingdom was attacked some 200 years ago by a demonic threat. It ruined their world, but the demon army has long since been sealed away, so they head off to new lands to reclaim what they once had. They fly in a ship that they have taken from the demon army, which they struggle with controlling. They of course end up on Earth, where Kyapko and Tasuke are on vacation, as Kyapko had won a trip on a raffle, and they did not want to bring Doc, so he's busy at home. The ship flies past them and they go to check it out. All these machines start going haywire and you gotta fight them off. And man, this game looks and sounds great. Look at the amount of scrolling elements and details in the background. It's a wonderful looking title for the system. It also plays closer to the first game, having a short-ranged slash attack and chargeable projectile, which you can now control with a D-pad. This is such a fun thing to see. You gotta hold down the attack button right after the blast is sent out to control it, and you can really do some damage with it. The movement feels great. I just love jumping all around and slashing things. And just like in the last game, you can still run around while charging your shots, which always feels great. Though it can be a little awkward if you start accidentally controlling your projectile and then stop moving your character unintentionally, but it's not that big a deal. You fight all kinds of mechs and even piloting one, where in single player mode your shots will automatically hit the enemies, and in co-op mode one person will maneuver the mech and the other person will aim and shoot. After the mech section you board the ship, running past boosters, going up elevators. I love all the mechanical details going on here, and robots jumping out of windows and big mechs to fight. This game throws so much at you and it keeps it fun and fresh and challenging. Like in Shubibinman 2, you have to restart the level when you die, but you get way more healing items, enemies go down faster, the levels are also much shorter and all around more fun. Eventually we'll manage to get to the first of Princess Kureha's henchmen, Bach. It's an easy fight and eventually his cyborg innards starts to show and he decides to pull back. Then there's a short mid-air section where you strike down turrets, a funny snowman boss that shoots tiny snowmen, a cool mining area, and there's so much variety in the environments and the music and everything. It really adds to its replayability. And something else is that the cutscenes and dialogue will change depending on who you're playing as. There's banter against the bosses as well as different anime cutscenes, so it makes it worthwhile to play as both characters. And if you play in 2-player mode, there's even more unique dialogue where both protagonists will talk. And though the anime cutscenes will still prioritize one of the two players, it will change who it prioritizes depending on who landed the last hit on the last boss. So it almost becomes a bit of a game of who earns the cutscene. When you get further into the ship, you meet Chopin. Both of the henchmen are named after the famous composers, Bach and Chopin. Anyways, he uses this weird vast arsenal of guns, grenades, and this weird chain. It's a simple fight, and after he bids you farewell. I love how you hear his voice get lower as he flies away. Now you gotta climb up and away from the lava. This part confused me at first. It tells you to jump, but I didn't understand what it meant. Turns out you have a wall jump. You're never put in a scenario where you need to use it in a safe environment to practice it, and this is the only section where it's sort of mandatory, though you can easily damage boost up to the next screen, so whatever. When you reach the princess, you have to wear down her magic shield and then land a final hit. Once she's downed, Chopin will panic and open the seal to the demon world in hopes that it'll take you out. Kureha asks him what in the world he's doing and quickly moves to seal it. However, you've already been sent to the demon realm. The demon lord Gash is warned of your presence, and he realizes that you can lead them to Earth, where he can destroy all its life like he did on Kureha's homeworld. So the last part of the game sees you rushing through the demon world to defeat Gash and stop his plan. I like how in this one section you have these neat spotlights that'll send enemies if you enter it. There's this fun boss fight with all these shields, and a short short but sweet little shoot 'em up section, wild designs, good music. Man, it's just a great time. After you take down Gash, you have to stop this weird demon missile thing. This is the last boss, and I always manage to beat him before all the dialogue is even done playing. Then, whichever protagonist you played will wake up on the beach, awakened by the other character, and for a moment you think it was just some weird dream before Kureha and her henchmen come out of nowhere to kick your ass. And then some nice illustrations from the designers and a little piece showing Jita and Mew from the last game commenting on how they didn't get a turn to play. It's very cute. And that's the end of the game. You also get a cute bonus where Capco goes over a bunch of fan art sent in, thanking them and even giving very kind comments about each drawing. There's also this weird scene where some fan asks if there's like a secret sex scene in the game or something, which obviously they say no to, or at least Capco does. It's very strange, but okay. While it's a short experience, you can play the game at least 3 times and get different cutscenes and dialogue. And there's also a hard mode for a little added challenge, though honestly I struggle to notice a difference. It's overall a great time, and it's worth a try for sure. The final game was released exclusively for the Japanese Super Famicom Satellaview, a service where games will be offered up in rotation and downloaded to your cartridge. This game came out as late as 1997, and it didn't get a physical release until 2017. Shubibinman Zero is a prequel featuring 2 characters who took on the mantle of Shubibinmen before Tasuke and Capco. They are Raita and Azuki. They have to stop Galco and the BB Corps as they're wreaking havoc, claiming the town is theirs. Raita shows up, proudly exclaiming that he'll stop them. Unlike Tasuke and Capco, Raita and Azuki seem to be proud and happy to be Shubibinmen, so I'm guessing they willingly became cyborgs, which just makes me wonder what happened to them after this game and before the first. Did Dark Skull kill them, and then that's why Doc was so panicked in the first game and had to take in 2 random kids? I know that's kinda dark, but I don't know why else they would stop being heroes if they loved it so much. Much like the last game, you have a short-ranged attack and a projectile. Unlike the last game, you can no longer control the projectile. You're completely still when charging it up. It's less overpowered, but also less fun. At least you have a sick sweep kick and a neat little auto combo that makes the melee attack a little more fleshed out than just, slash sword. There's some cool special attacks and stuff. Instead of having unlimited attempts like in previous games, this one has an arcade-style credit system. I don't normally mind this, but this game is like an hour long and can be fairly challenging. I kinda wish you could just keep trying over and over like in last games. This game's 2-player actually feels decent compared to Shubibinman 1 and 2. You do have separate health bars for the first time. Sadly, you share continues, and you'll probably just end up running out of them faster this way. Also, in single player, you can only play as Raita, the boy. Player 2 will always be Azuki. It's kinda sad that they removed your ability to choose or to see different characters in the different cutscenes. Azuki is only if you're 2-player, and Raita will sometimes turn around and say things to her, but if you're playing in single player mode, he'll just remind himself, oh, she's not here, which is at least kind of funny. This is the most polished game in the series, and also the most comedic. It has a lot of funny little cutscenes. That being said, I miss the open feeling of the first game, or the serious story of the second, the cutscenes, music, and projectiles and spectacles of the third. This game feels like a very simple one in comparison, streamlined. And that's not a bad thing. I did have more fun playing this than Shubibinman 2, just because it's a lot easier. The levels are fairly simple and straightforward. It has some neat bosses, including the assassin Kagemaru, who becomes Raita's rival. They're a fun combination. Eventually we do discover that Galco was just hired help, and when she thinks you're too much of a pain, she'll just give up on fighting you and leaves, saying it's not worth her pay. The real villain is a real funny looking goober who's using this giant engine he stole from the dock to cause mass destruction. The final fight against him is pretty wild. When you defeat him and save the day, Raita immediately exclaims that he's bored and maybe Kagemaru wants to fight again, so he runs off. That's friggin' awesome. And that's Shubibinman Zero. It's decent, but I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm glad it's easily accessible nowadays with its modern release though. All the Shubibinman games have since been translated and ported to Xbox, Switch, and PlayStation, which is great to see. It's a neat little series with clear passion behind it. None of the games are perfect, but I'd say the third especially is genuinely great, and all of them have something unique to offer. And that's all I got for you this time. Thanks for watching.